heart of God, and in the heart of God I am. I am in the heart of God, and in the heart of God I am. I release the fear and know without a doubt I am never alone. Walk with me and guide my way, all in the heart of God. We are in the heart of God, and in the heart of God we are. We are in the heart of God, and in the heart of God we are. We are in the heart of God. We follow the sound and the light. We know an inner voice and hear a gentle wind, all in the heart of God. We are in the heart of God, and in the heart of God we are. We are in the heart of God, and in the heart of God we are. We release the past, and this moment of time wrap us in grace and in love. The joy and wisdom that we find are all in the heart of God. We feel the courage and the strength filling our body, mind, and soul. We know a presence in our lives, all in the divine flow. We are in the heart of God, and in the heart of God we are. We are in the heart of God, and in the heart of God we are. We are in the heart of God, and in the heart of God we are. We are in the heart of God, and in the heart of God we are.
Thank you, Lois. Lois, did you write that?
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Lois. So now, let's extend our welcome to our friend and guest speaker, Reverend Stephen McAfee. Stephen.
Good morning. Good morning. So, okay. Bye. So, welcome here. My talk today is called What's Missing? And it was inspired actually by Wanda's talk. I tend to do that, I don't know, but the last few times it's like, oh, that was really good, I should do something connected. So when she talked last time, one of the things she did was cover the Unity 12 powers, which Charles came up with, and that were understandings that came into his consciousness, and he kind of tried to put into a form and describe. Then he made some associations in his awareness between those and the 12 apostles, and different colors and different energy centers in the body and all that. So Wanda briefly mentioned those 12. And then she said, in essence, my take on this was, she found some other ones that weren't part of the 12 that were also important. And And so having been involved in Unity churches since 1976, I've never heard a minister add anything to what Charles said about the 12 powers. And I thought, that's pretty interesting. And frankly, the ones that she came up with I thought were at least as important as the ones Charles came up with, and really good. And I hope you paid attention to them. And if you didn't, or you didn't hear it, it's on YouTube, so check it out. So the what's missing is partly related to that. And it has kind of two little aspects to it. The first aspect is, so in the New Testament, it's pretty clear from what Yeshua taught, and it's clear elsewhere in the Bible as well, but it's pretty clear from what he taught, that we've already been given everything we need to have. In one place it's really specific, and it says, aren't you aware that the Father, it was his good pleasure to give you his kingdom? Not he's going to give you his kingdom. It was his good pleasure to give you his kingdom. It's already been done. You already have that. And now, for those of us in Unity, we have the 5 tenets of unity, plus the 12 powers, but we have the 5 tenets of unity. If you haven't read those for a while, you might want to check those out too. So there's all this stuff that we've been given. And yet, I know in my own life and talking to people that every now and then we all get in a space where we feel like something's missing. So how is that possible? How is something missing? And so the first thing I want to talk about is what's missing there. And what I decided was that for me, generally what's missing there is that in the moments where I feel like something's missing, I'm not experiencing love. And I feel like it's not there. I feel like I can't connect to God. I can't hear God. I don't know what God wants. I'm not even sure if there is such a thing. And I go into all these questioning modes that even things that I actually know perfectly well, I still sometimes question them. When I'm not in that movement of love, when I'm not feeling the presence of love. As soon as that's present, all of that stuff just dissolves. It doesn't even matter. But when that's not present, everything's less. Everything's somehow got a hollowness to it. So, from what we understand, is it possible that the love of God is absent? No. What is possible is that some part of me is closed down to it. And if it's closed down to it, it doesn't matter whether it's present or not. I don't feel it. Maybe some of you are married, have had this experience before, but if you're lying next to your partner and you're in bed and you have this wonderful tender moment where you just all of a sudden are aware of how much you love them. And it's like, oh, honey, I really love you and I'm so grateful you're here. And you tell them that and it's this really sweet moment and then you hear them snore. So all of that love was present, and did they hear it? No. So sometimes what's missing in our lives is missing because we have decided to wall off a part of our consciousness to the divine. We've decided that some part of us is not safe to entrust to God, or we've decided that some part of us isn't worthy for God to be present in, or whatever other thing we've decided. We've done something that has shut down a place in us so that that love that's present is not able to come in. And when it doesn't come in, it might as well be absent because we don't experience it. So most of the time in my life, when something has been missing or I feel a lack, I tend to look outward first. I tend to look at, well, it's because I don't have enough money. It's, well, because my health isn't really good right now. I don't feel so good. Well, it's because I had this tiff with so-and-so. And I come up with all these reasons why I feel this sense of something missing. And even if I get more money, even if I resolve the tiff, even if I get healthier, it doesn't fix it. But as soon as I start actively loving again, it does. It fixes it. And if I'm experiencing the love of God in me and I'm being loving toward people in my life, and I don't have enough money, I still feel okay. If I don't have the health I want, I still feel grateful because I'm experiencing love and I'm sharing love. So to me, that's one of the things that's missing that we can do something about, not by finding love or creating love or any of those things, but by simply looking at those places in us that are resistant and allowing those to gradually melt in us so that love is able to move freely through us again. So I thought that was important. And then I thought about, my way shower, who is Yeshua or Jesus. And I thought about, I don't know what you think about, but I thought about when I think of him, whether you think of him as Jesus or whether you think of him by his Hebrew name like I do, Yeshua. When you think of him, I don't know what happens to you, but what's the first thing that comes into your mind when you think of him? What? Love. Me too. Do you think about his theology first? No. Do you usually think about his miracles first? No. Do you think about the hardship he went through first? No. Do you think about his unwed mother being a teenage mother, giving birth to this child with no support? No. What do you think about? You think about the love he had, right? The Jews in his day were practicing what God had told them to do through Moses. They were doing it. They were practicing all the laws that they took as laws instead of a set of instructions. They were trying to do all the commandments. They did all the sacrifices in the temple. They didn't do all the things they weren't supposed to do on Shabbat. They were following all these things. And Yeshua comes along and does not ever say to them, stop doing what Moses told you. He never says that. What he says is, you're missing the spirit of this. You're missing it. You're doing all that stuff, but you're missing the core of it. What was the core of it that they were missing? Love. That God wasn't just a powerful king who lorded it over them. God loved them. That they weren't just supposed to tolerate each other or take advantage of each other or get what they could from one another. They were supposed to love one another. That's the whole point. It goes so far as to say in the first letter of John, flat out, 3 words, God is love. So if love is missing because we're closed down to it in our internal relationship with the divine or in our external relationship with each other, if that's missing, if we're not allowing ourselves to experience that love, do you know what we're not experiencing? God. And do you know what's not moving freely through us? God. Because it's the same thing. So that love is really important. Now, something else that, in terms of the what's missing, and I'm going to be a little bit daring here because I'm not even a unity minister, and I'm going to tell you something that's missing in unity. Here we go. Or at least it is to me. So here we go. So the 5 tenets that we've talked about a lot in the last couple of months, I've talked about a couple of times, Wanda has. I want you to hear these again. Now these are from Unity of Fort Wayne's website. They're all phrased slightly differently from Unity Church to Unity Church, but the essence is the same. Principle or tenet number 1, God is absolute good everywhere present. Anybody here know that that's true? Yeah, it's true, right? Okay. Tenet number 2, human beings are inherently divine. Their very essence is of God, and therefore they are inherently good. Also true, yeah? Okay. Unity tenet number 3, human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Everything in this manifest realm has its beginning in thought. We all accept that? 4, affirmative prayer and meditation are the practical tools that we teach and use to create our experiences. Yes? Okay, we're good so far. 4 out of 4. 5, knowing and understanding the laws of truth are not enough. We have to live the truth of what we know. That's critical, right? And we can do it. All these things that we're told and all the teachings that we've been given in the Bible and in unity, all of those are doable. We can do all that, right? What's not in these 5 statements? Not even mentioned once. Love. It's nowhere in there. Does that seem not right to you? Because it doesn't seem right to me. What do you think of again when you think of Jesus first? What is this church built on? What do you think of when you think of this church? And yet, it's nowhere in there. So when I think of these 5 tenets, I add one. This is my twisted little way of doing things, or my chutzpah, or whatever it is, but this is how I do it, with total lack of humility. This is how I do it. I do the 5 tenets, and then I add one. And the one I add is, love is the essence of God and the purpose of my life. And until I love, I will not be happy. That seems important to me. And it seems like if you did all these other ones, that you understood God was everywhere, that you understood the essence of God was good, that you understood your essence and everyone else's essence was good, that you understood prayer and meditation were important. Have you known people that did pray and did meditate and still felt empty and depressed? I certainly have. What's missing? They're not experiencing the love. Or as Yeshua said, you're missing the spirit of it. I'm not suggesting this church is missing that spirit. I'm suggesting it has it. But if I were an outsider and I looked at these 5 tenets saying, what's this church all about? Love isn't there. But if they came here, what do you think they would remember about coming here? These 5 tenets? I bet not. I bet they would remember whether or not they felt like you loved them. Yeah? So my way of doing this with unity and everything else that may or may not work for you is when I hear a spiritual teaching that has truth in it, like all these 5 tenets, and I want to take that into my life and practice it, I do that. But if anything's missing that doesn't help me connect to that spirit of love in me, then I add it. I don't fault the thing for not having it. I add it. If I hear a traditional Christian belief that I don't think is true, and somebody says, well, the only way you can get to God is by believing in Jesus, and I don't think that's true, but they love God and they're good to people, I don't care that I don't believe what they believe. It's more important that they love God and each other than that they think what I think. So I don't fault them for having part of it missing. I just add it for me. And I can be present in their church and totally comfortable. Totally comfortable. You think Yeshua agreed with everything in the synagogues he went to in his own day? You think he agreed with everything the priests did in the temple in his own day? He went there every week. It says so. He was part of it. And most of the weeks he went there were not the disturbance weeks that you read about as the exceptions when he was there. He went there every week. How many disturbances do you read about? 2 or 3? He went there every week for years as part of the congregation because love was more important to him than beliefs. Yeah? Makes sense? Makes sense to me. Let me read you a couple things that the Bible tells us about love. These are going to be very familiar to you, unless you haven't read the Bible or never listened to a Christian lecture. Otherwise, these will probably be familiar to you, because everybody quotes these 2 passages. And I'm about to quote these 2 passages. This is from 1 Corinthians 13. I will confess, not the biggest Paul fan. I'm just not. But he every now and then has something really exquisite. This is one of those. You know, if you like Paul, God bless you, that's great. But I like this part of Paul. 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak with the tongues of angels, but do not have love, I am like a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all the mysteries, and I have faith that actually moves mountains, and I do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away every possession I have to charity, if I surrender even my body, but do not do it in love, it does me and no one else any good. Love is patient. It is kind, not jealous. It does not brag. It is not arrogant. It does not act disgracefully. It never seeks its own benefit alone. It is not easily provoked. It does not keep any account of wrongdoings suffered. It does not keep any account of wrongs suffered. It does not rejoice in any unrighteousness or immorality. It rejoices in what's true. It keeps confidences. Love believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. That sounds pretty important to me. And this is the last one. It's from the first letter of John 4:8. The one who does not love does not know God, because God is love. Think about that. The one who does not love does not know God. It doesn't matter if you have a PhD in theology, if you're the head of Worldwide Unity Ministries. It doesn't matter what position you hold. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what you believe. If you don't have love, you don't know God. That's a powerful statement. And frankly, in a Jewish culture that was built on doing the teachings of Moses, and they had to do everything just right to get God's favor, and they've been doing that for centuries, to be told you don't know who God is. How well do you think that went over? How well do you think it went when they were just quoting Yeshua the other day in one of the classes here, and he said, you worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know. That doesn't mean we have secret knowledge that they don't have. It doesn't mean our beliefs are better than yours. It doesn't mean what we understand is accurate and what you understand is false. It doesn't mean any of that. You know what it means? It means we understand love is the core of everything. And that is not only the essence of God, it is the will of God that that love be manifest. Why is there a creation at all? Because God wills that love be manifest. It can't be manifest without the creation. This is where God shares his love with all creation. This is where we get to share love with each other. That's the whole point of creation. Love is the essence. So here's my sixth unity tenet. Sorry, Charles and Myrtle, but I hope you like this one. Love is the essence of God and the purpose of my life, and I'm only happy when I love. That seems obvious to me. And maybe it's not, or maybe it's so obvious that we don't ever think about it. So, here's what I would like you to do, just as a suggestion. Before you leave this sanctuary today, at the end of the service, before you leave, if there's any other soul here that you love, tell them. Stand in front of them and look them in the eye and tell them, I really love you. Just one. And if somebody comes up to you, let them tell you. The teachings about God are very complex. The different faiths of the world and the different practices of the world and the different teachings of the world are very complicated. Trying to sort out what's right and what's wrong can be very difficult. To discern what's the best and what isn't the best for you can be very challenging. But God and God's way is simple. Simple. That's why our minds have a hard time grasping it, because the mind is complicated. The heart of you knows love matters. It knows that that's what brings meaning into your life. And spirituality, from my vantage point where I am right now, and have been for a long time, spirituality is not about what we learn. It's not about what we believe. It's not about what we hope for. It's not about fantasies of a better world or an afterlife. Spirituality is how much we love. It's that simple to me. And if somebody is a very kind, genuine, loving person to all the souls they meet, they are very high on my spiritual respect standard, even if they believe nothing about God or believe something completely different than I do about God. There's a quote I came across in my philosophy classes many years ago in college, and the quote was, "Everything is holy where devotion kneels." It's love that makes things holy. It's love that connects us to God. If God is the essence of love, what else could connect us to God but love? And we talk a lot about the Christ within us and the power of God within us and the light within us and wanting to be Christ-like and wanting to grow up to be Christ's figures and wanting to be the anointed children of God and behave that way. How do we know if we behave that way? How do we know if we're doing that? Yeshua said, "The world will know you are my disciples if you love one another." That's how we know. Until we're loving souls, we're not fulfilling the divine image in us. And as soon as we are, no matter what we believe or where we work or what color we are or how old we are or how fat or skinny we are or how smart or stupid we are or rich or poor we are or healthy or sick we are, no matter any of that, as soon as we do that, we are living as children of God. And until we do that, we're only pretending to. So that's my take on this. And I think that element of love is something that's so present in Yeshua's teaching and so present in this church that it deserves to be acknowledged. That's all I'm saying. And I think that if we recognize that love that we have, we should talk to God about it in our prayers and meditation. But if we recognize that love that we have for God in each other, at least once in a while, we should tell each other. My last thing, and then I'll ask Lois to do a little piece of music to lead us toward meditation, then I'll do a meditation with you. Because of my work in ministry and because of people in my family who've passed over, I've sat with a number of people as they died. Not officially in a hospice capacity, but as a minister or a family member or a friend. I've sat with a lot of people who died. My experience of that is that what most of them remembered and talked about in their life was not what they believed, not what church they went to, not how much money they had or how much work they did, or where they were employed or all the places they traveled. Do you know what most of them talked about? People that they loved. And when I've heard people who are dying express regrets, do you know what the regret almost always was? That they didn't love as much as they could have. That they held something back because of their shame or their upset or their whatever it was. So we have been given the gift of being able to choose, freely choose, by our free will, to choose love. Or not. So I hope we all do. So if Lois would come up and share the living, loving essence, this is another one Lois wrote. And then that'll kind of bring us into a little meditative state, and I'll come back up and we'll do just a couple of minutes of meditation together. Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Stephen. I invited Kelly Deck to drum, and she said yes.
Yay, Kelly.
We are the living, loving essence of God. We are the living, loving essence of God. We are the living, loving essence of God. We celebrate in the heart of God. We celebrate in the Spirit of God. We celebrate in the loving of God. We celebrate in the joy of God. We are the living, loving essence of God. We are the living, loving essence of God. We are the living, loving essence of God. We celebrate in the heart of God. We celebrate in the peace of God. We celebrate in the knowing of God. We celebrate in the wisdom of God. We are the living, loving essence of God. We are the living, loving essence of God. We are the living, loving essence of God. We celebrate in the heart of God. We celebrate in the Spirit of God. We celebrate in the loving of God. We celebrate in the joy of God. We are the living, loving essence 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 of God.
So let's just take... Thank you, Lois. Thank you, Kelly. So let's just take a moment and take that in. We're told that God is love and that God dwells in us. So if we are of God, then our essence is also love. And we cannot be fulfilled or content or at peace if we're living against our essence. So in this moment, just one more moment of silence, let that love move freely within you. And let it reassure any of those places of resistance that there's no need for the fight. That it's safe to lay down arms and walls and to stand free in that movement of the essence of God, of God's love, fully within us and through us. So Lord, in this 1 minute of silence, let us experience that as real. And I would like to thank every participant in this church for helping to make it a place where love in all its forms is welcomed and honored and celebrated. May that continue. Amen.